Mums with Hustle podcast, episode 508.
Welcome to the Mums with Hustle podcast, where you'll discover everyday mum entrepreneurs killing it in their industry. Learn the secrets you can replicate to create your own success with your host, Tracy Harris.
It dawned on me that I've not shared this story over the past, decade. Well, I mean, really, this is a story that happened about 2 years into having my online business. Maybe slightly less, definitely not more. And it's a story of when I applied for my first mastermind. I still remember the exact moment that everything shifted for me. And literally in an instant, I went from knowing that I wasn't going to apply for a mastermind, I wasn't even entertaining it, to being 100% certain and then just applying. So I wanted to tell you that story of how quickly everything shifted for me, and actually what was the catalyst for that shift, which to me came as a huge surprise. So again, this is like 18 months, maybe 2 years into having my online business. And at the time, I was working on my business. I did not have a part-time job or anything like that. If you know much about my story, it was very much one of me returning to work after maternity leave, really noticing that there was a big gap in the life that I was saying that I wanted to live and have, and the way I wanted to be present as a mother and our lifestyle and all of those things. And then what was actually a reality for me in my role as an executive primary teacher. Like the two was not stacking up. The math was not mathing. In addition to that, I was met with a lot of maternal bias upon returning to work in terms of my commitment, my capacity, my desire for my job all of a sudden being questioned. And I was very much inspired and creative and so happy to be back at work. But the leadership team at the time really couldn't imagine that I'd want to be a mother and have that dedication to work at the same time, or that I was capable. How insulting. But anyway, it is what it is. And I'm grateful for all of that, because that thrust me into the direction of leaving and starting my own business, which has since grown to be a multiple seven-figure business. I've made $7 or $8 million in online sales in that time. I live an incredible, peaceful life. I have a very healthy lifestyle, a beautiful, happy marriage, beautiful relationship with my kids. I am so privileged that I get to work from anywhere. And I know what it's like to go from feeling completely stuck and also riddled with anxiety and depression and just feeling like, gosh, is this all that there is? All the way to having what I have now and feeling the complete opposite, and just wanting every single woman to know that she can have this and she doesn't have to choose. She doesn't have to make burnout be her story. Anyway, let's get into the tea. So yes, at the time, I was in the early days of running my business, and I hadn't yet hit 6 figures in a year. And I was doing all the things. I was launching, I was creating, I had my podcast, I was on Instagram, I was sending weekly email newsletters. I was doing all of the right things. But deep down, I knew that I was operating from a someday mindset. You know the one. Someday I'll earn more. Someday I'll join a mastermind and I'll invest in myself properly. And around that same time, I had a friend who I'd never met in person. We were very much Instagram friends. Call us peers, maybe slightly frenemy. No, I'm sure he had good intentions. I definitely had good intentions. But he was basically doing the exact same thing as me in my business, but he lived in another part of the world, and he actually lived in America. And we were both selling Instagram courses at the time and possibly Instagram audits and coaching at the time. Now, we used to chat back and forth about marketing and about our launches and cheer each other on in the DMs, and we would talk about strategy and our goals. It was just two entrepreneurs figuring it out. And one day we happened to both talk about the same digital online mentor. And neither of us were in his programs, but we kind of talked about him like we had stars in our eyes for one day being inside of that program. And then out of the blue, he just mentioned that he was going to be applying for that mastermind. It was the very same mastermind that I had been dreaming about, that I was talking to him about, but I was talking to him from that, one day when I'm more established. And here he was, quite literally as established as I was, maybe not even making as much money as I was, but he was like, I'm applying for that mastermind. And here I had been in the energy and in the identity of one day I'll apply for that because this is not for someone like me yet. That moment became really pivotal for me because I'll be honest, hearing that he was going for it with such certainty and he had such ease, he was so nonchalant about it. And here I was just absolutely shocked in the DMs. I'm pretty sure my mouth was open. And I was just like, wow, look at him go. So hearing that he was going for it absolutely lit a fire in me because we were at the same level, remember? We were making pretty much the same amount of money as each other. We'd been around for the same amount of time as each other. Our Instagram followings were very much growing at the same rate as each other. We were in the same season of business, but the difference was that he had already decided that he was ready. He was fit for it. He was good for it. He was worthy of it. And here I was still waiting. I don't know what the heck I was waiting for permission, waiting for someone to come and knight me as Tracy, I now deem you worthy of applying for that mastermind. What the actual? So I remember sitting there thinking, why is he saying yes to himself so easily while I'm sitting here questioning if I deserve it and continuing to blow out my timeline, saying, oh, I'll be ready when? When what? So anyway, that pushed me to look up the details again, to get the application, to get the price, to figure out exactly what I would have to be spending on my travel to this mastermind because it was based in another country. Not only that, I needed the dates of in-person mastermind events because I knew that I would go to those. Now, obviously, it's an option to be able to fly in and go to those things, but I was like, no, I'm doing it. I am doing it. I want the full transformation, including the identity shift that comes with being the woman who puts herself on a plane and flies and goes and puts herself in the room, and being the woman who even does that with children in tow. So it wasn't just travel for myself and my husband and my kids. It was for all of us. It was absolutely for all of us. So yeah, my first reaction when I did the math was panic because I wasn't even making 6 figures a year in the business, let alone all the expenses of running the business, right? And yeah, it was an international mastermind based in the US. The investment alone was more than I had paid myself that entire year. And then, like I said, there was the flights, accommodation, just the big, how am I going to do this? I was still nursing, still actively breastfeeding on demand. I was like, how am I going to be in the room when I'm nursing? And there was just a lot. And it just all felt really impossible. But that's because I was truly thinking with a brain that was looking for reinforcements of how it's not possible. Anyway, so at the same time, there was this quiet knowing in my body, it was like the faintest of whispers. And it said, this is the moment. This is the moment. This is the moment. We are joining. And so I took a breath And I filled out the application and I hit submit, hands shaking, still not sure of how it would all be possible in terms of financially and just logistics, but absolutely hitting submit on that form with faith at the helm and not fear. And then I cried because it just felt like I really was stepping into my next level. It felt really stretchy because I knew that whether I got in or not, something had changed in me permanently. And I had finally decided that I wasn't going to let my circumstances determine my readiness or my worthiness to be in a room like that. So I can't remember if it was a few days later. I imagine it would have been a few days later, but I got the email that invited me along to an interview on Zoom, and where I really got to articulate what my goals are and also where my sticking points are. And I really loved that interview. I loved that conversation. It was very clarifying and it really solidified that even having someone sit there and asking me those questions felt like a transformation. It felt like, okay, I need to be around people who ask questions like this and who lead like this. And even when I remember I gave a particular monetary goal, and the person interviewing me, who wasn't the actual mentor, but one of their coaches, she said to me, well, that's a bit small. You can go for more. I could tell you today how you could get to that goal. So let's stretch a bit higher. And even just that, I loved it. It was expansive, because finally someone was asking me for numbers and data and then saying, okay, well, that's not hard. Let's just fix this part of the funnel here, this part of the funnel here. That'll be done within 3 months. And then you would have hit that goal. So then what's next? Let's think bigger, Tracy. And like I said, I changed again. Like it was just another up level. So at the end of that interview, I had to wait, and then another email came through and it said that I was in. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like so excited, but then also, who am I to be in a room like that? Like straight away I was like, oh my gosh, who's going to be in there? Are they smarter than me? Are they further ahead than me? All of those sorts of thoughts came, but again, that's good. That means I'm placing myself in a space where there is growth. And, when I got there, I was further ahead in so many ways than other people, but also vice versa. So it became this really beautiful place for us to add value to one another. Because by this stage, I'd already had a podcast weekly for 2 years. I'd already built my list up to 10,000 people. I'd already I had the largest Instagram following in the room. My revenue was not the biggest. My funnels were not the highest converting. But, I hadn't yet built a team. I think I had one VA. So there were so many ways that I could give value, and that's what a mastermind is about. But there was so many ways in which I could also extract value. And so it was just incredible. No one was in that mastermind feeling like they were the big deal. Everyone was very aware of their strengths and very aware of their deficits, and really willing to collaboratively move each other forward. And it was just so inspiring to be there. So, that first mastermind trip, to explain that, oh my gosh, I even bought myself my first luxury item. I bought myself my first Gucci bag at the airport to memorize, to really anchor into my memory a peak emotional state. Another big shift in identity was to go and buy that gift for myself. And I walked into that room when I arrived, and I'll never forget it. It wasn't just the caliber of the entrepreneurs that I met, though that clearly was incredible, but it was the energy of the space. And I also realized how many burnt out entrepreneurs there are. Like, that was very eye-opening for me, and how disconnected people were from their families, from their bodies, from their joy, how much they had placed their identity in being an entrepreneur. And so they really feared losing that because, yeah, I could see that vulnerability there. So I remember being in awe of these people, but also knowing that I will build my business differently to everyone else in this room. I wanted wealth and success, but not at the cost of what I saw in that room, not at the cost of my health, my peace, my presence as a mother, and always wanting our lifestyle and our freedom to be our biggest flex, and not, money and fancy cars and all of those things. Yes, I knew at my first mastermind retreat that I attended that I would have my own mastermind. So even that is, call it an activation, that came from placing myself in the energy. So again, expansion, and being in a room of people that were like me, ambitious, heart-led, building real wealth while living real lives, people that wanted freedom and joy and purpose. That just felt like I was coming home. It was evidence for the scientific evidence that hanging around like-minded people who get you, and being in proximity to the right people actually lowers your cortisol. And I could feel that in my own being. I felt at peace. I felt, like I said, like a coming home, even though I'd never met these people. It was just like I'm meant to be here. And so, yes, that became a big source of inspiration for me actually building my own mastermind that I have today. But it all started because I joined one. And I joined with the feeling of, I'm not ready, but I'm doing it anyway. And it happened like a lightning bolt. Thanks to that guy in the DMs who was so certain that he was joining. And then that made me just be like, well, I'll be damned if you do and I don't. But you know what's really funny? I joined and he was never in the program. He didn't join. He ended up joining the base level kind of beginner program that mentor runs. And I was the one that flew. Oh, anyway, how exciting. That whole situation, it taught me that readiness isn't a feeling, it's a choice. So I'm excited to see who in this community makes the choice to apply for my Inner Circle Mastermind. And I cannot wait to read the applications. I cannot wait to contact people and make that one-on-one time for our interview, our conversation. And I cannot wait to offer places to people that are the right fit. So if you're thinking of applying, just do it. Just apply and we'll see what happens next. It's exciting and I can't wait to announce and let you know who from this community is stepping up and into that delicious mastermind space. If you have any questions about it, please just email hello@mumswithhustle.com or go to innercirclemastermind.co. And I'll see you next week on the podcast.